When I was 16, I felt like something was wrong with me, as most 16-year-olds do. I realized this when I was having a conversation with a new friend in my life, Talia, and we were discussing different relationships we had had. And hearing about Talia's experiences in relationships made me realize I was experiencing something different. And I suddenly found myself saying, I think something is wrong with me. I have never been sexually attracted to anyone. Talia surprisingly told me, look, nothing is wrong with you. There is such a thing. It's called asexuality, and sent me the link to the asexual forum online. There I learned that asexuality is a sexual orientation of people who do not experience sexual attraction. There was a word for what I was experiencing. This is where my journey started. I am Gaia, and I am asexual. I never really had an issue with being different, I just was. My struggle has always been to find other people to be different with, because you can't do relationships on your own. I want to take you through my journey of what my experiences as an asexual taught me about relationships in general. In order to do that, I want us to first think about what a normative relationship looks like. So for instance, when someone posts on Facebook that they are in a relationship, what comes to mind? What do we imagine this relationship to be like? And of course, every relationship is different and unique, but what characteristics are in common? I suggest we think of relationships kind of like a box with a determined set of expectations filling it. And these expectations have changed throughout history, and they differ from culture to culture. So we're going to draw a specific box for what it means to be in a relationship in 21st century Western culture. For people around my age, in their 20s and 30s, this box will include things such as intense romantic feelings, sex, spending a lot of time together, exclusivity, and so on. Later in life, the expectations from a romantic relationship get even more specific. So we have marriage, living together, having a joint bank account, having kids, and of course, the till death do us part promise. So I'm going to add a shared burial plot to this box too. Obviously, not every romantic relationship has all of these characteristics. Some couples aren't married, some don't have kids, some aren't exclusive with each other. But two characteristics always seem to me to be a little more vital, as if they determine the status of the relationship, and that's romance and sex. We're expected to be sexually interested in the person we fall in love with, and a lot of times we view romance and sex kind of like the pillars upon which we're supposed to build our most intimate relationships. But what happens when that's not the case? What if you wanted to take either sex or romance out of the box? This is what happened to me when I first started identifying as asexual. A lot of asexuals do fall in love. They go through these intense romantic feelings. They think about their crush all the time. They can't wait to spend time with them. They just don't want to add sex into that mix. And this was my experience too. However, the first thing I thought about when I realized I was asexual was that I will be alone forever. I was really, really scared. And this is because at the time I was basically trying to duplicate this relationship box ideal minus the sex. But when I was trying to do that, I realized this is a pretty difficult type of relationship to achieve. Everyone around me was looking for someone who could fill all the expectations of the relationship box. And therefore, I knew that for someone to have such a relationship with me that resembled a normative romantic relationship minus the sex, it would always be considered as lacking something. And this is one of the biggest issues within the asexual community. How can we create love and intimacy when this is the box society expects us to tick? Some asexuals deal with this by trying to find a relatively compatible partner sexually, so someone who is also asexual or for whom sex isn't as vital. Some asexuals deal with this by outsourcing sex. So they would have a sexually open relationship and allow for sex to still be a part of their partner's life outside of the relationship. And I was open to this option myself, but when I was 20, something happened to completely change my point of view. At age 20, I started getting even closer to one of my best friends at the time, Inbal. Every time after we'd meet, I'd have these giddy feelings towards her. And soon I started questioning whether I was falling in love with her. But the answer was always no, I wasn't. I was feeling the same friend-type feelings I always have, just stronger. So I was obviously not sexually interested in Inbal, but I was also not romantically interested in her. And still, when I was looking forward into my future, I realized I wanted to spend it with her. And suddenly, a different box came to mind, an Inbal box. When I was looking forward into my future with Inbal, this is what I saw. I wanted us to spend a lot of time together. I wanted us to live together and have a shared household. We both happen not to want kids of our own, but I did want us to raise pets together. And I could see us potentially being together for the rest of our lives, so I am going to throw the shared burial plot into our box too. This seemed a little weird to me. I've never seen this kind of a relationship in movies. I have never met anyone in real life who was living in this kind of a relationship. But mostly, I didn't have a protocol for starting a conversation about my emotions. I mean, was I supposed to ask her to marry me, but like a friend? I ended up opening the question of our future with her and asked her how she wanted us to construct our own unique relationship. And we started figuring out together what we both wanted to put into our box. This completely changed the way I was viewing relationships. It was like sex was the glue holding the entire box together. And without it, the box started unraveling. Taking sex out of the box eventually led me to take everything out of the box and to rearrange what my relationships look like. My Inbal box is just one option, but the possibilities are endless. And although my relationship with Inbal changed its course throughout the years, it really taught me how to approach intimacy from outside the normative box. This was a profoundly meaningful understanding. I finally had a way to communicate how I wanted to connect with others. Before, it was like I had the normative box hovering over my head, telling me I will never be able to fully satisfy a partner, that I was lacking something. But now, I could draw new boxes with the people that I love and specifically tailor them to our desires. So, why am I telling you this today? Why is this relevant to people who are not asexual? Well, asexuals might not be the only people who don't fit into this box. Though one size fits all is a myth when it comes to our emotional needs. And the option to custom make our own relationships is not open just to asexual people. Anyone can do that. We get to decide what our relationships look like. We get to decide which box we want to share with which person in our life. We get to decide what makes our relationships intimate. It could be sex, but it could also be watching a favorite TV show together, or playing music together, or reading each other love poems we have written to our dogs. The image of the normative box is so strong, but it doesn't have to define the way that we connect with others. We get to figure that out for ourselves. Now the question is, how creative do you want to be in building your own relationships? Thank you.